Let me fire an invite off to Bobby, and then we can get growing here. Get growing. Get going. I had a lot of fun yesterday's stream. Let's see. Link. Then I'll text him just to let him know that we are live. Okay. We'll get Chad in here, and then we will be off to the races with this slate. One thing I haven't checked yet, which is probably a good idea, is the latest weather. So let me get that up. My screen. Philadelphia postponed, and everything else is green. Pittsburgh at Chicago, 15 plus miles per hour sustained. A bit out to right, a bit left to right. Okay, that's somewhat interesting. Oakland at Detroit, some blowing winds. And that's about it. Yesterday was not a good day for me with that 2,500, but it was a good day on my FanDuel MME builds. Had one that was actually I was one swipe away from taking the whole thing down. Now again, it's very easy to say after the fact, but not even after the fact. But I mean, remember, it's just one out of 100 lineups that happened to be the one that had the guy up there in the ninth inning. But it was a fun sweat, but it wasn't 100,000 for first. So I still would like to say that I've not had, I guess, a full legit 100K sweat this season. I've had a bunch of good 5-figure boys and stuff like that, but I'd like to have be up at the plate or something with 100K on the line, or me be in a position like Bobby where I got to fade like a whole bunch of stuff, or just be able to fade just the Patrick Wisdom thing. So I just want to, before Bobby comes, I want to give a PSA. Just a lot of stuff going on True DFS. We got all the sports at different levels. We was fortunate enough, for guys who don't know, to get DFS Chan to really spearhead the LOL esports content, so that I don't have to, and also the soccer content. To be honest, I can't quite get into the soccer sweat yet, only because I don't exactly know who all the players are. So I don't really know exactly what I'm rooting for. So I can't quite get into the sweat yet. But what's good about the soccer sweat is that all the games start at the same time, and it all ends in like an hour and a half. So that is kind of cool. So that's coming up this weekend. There's going to be NASCAR going up this weekend. There's going to be MMA going on this weekend. Baseball. There's tennis over at the U.S. Open that's going on. I'm playing that every day. There's I'm actually going to the U.S. Open next week. So there's a lot of sports going on, and that's before NFL. At NFL, we are ramped up. I showed my first set of projections on the site yesterday. I'm still tweaking that content. Between that and Survivor, there's going to be a whole bunch of NFL stuff. I want to shout out to Rody. I've kind of like seen kind of hints and glimmers of Rody stuff that he's going to be starting to put on here, which is excellent, because I mean, with all these different sports and all these people interested in all this whatever, I'd like to, put as much up as possible. But again, Bobby and I are only two people, so to have Rody do it would be and Chan and all that is a really big home run. I just want to say, Bobby, you weren't here yesterday at the end. For those of you that stuck around, I had a lot of fun with you guys yesterday. I mean, I stayed right through, like even like a half hour lock, just like we were looking at like ownerships. We were talking about other stuff, like how to access lobbies on FanDuel and stuff like that. Just talking about all kinds of stuff. And unfortunately, I'd love to do more of that. Just usually the timing of it is kind of, I
Yeah.
usually go to dinner straight after. It has nothing to do with DFS. I usually just have to go to dinner with Stacy straight after. But yesterday she was out, so I was able to chill out with you guys for a while. And yeah, maybe I'll try to do a little bit more of that because we got to answer some other just kind of questions. This is definitely the stuff that I really do enjoy. It's like talking back and forth to you guys about all kinds of stuff. So,
Likewise.
so with that said, you want to talk about tonight's slate? I was mentioning to everybody, by the way, that the only weather issue that remains, it's not even an issue. I saw on the report that that in Chicago, the White Sox, like the wind is blowing out a little bit. Is that impacting you anything at all or no?
I mean, with the lineup so basically, like, is that like a Rodon question? I mean, I like the White Sox anyway.
Oh, okay.
I think that's they're pretty popular.
Okay.
As far as I can tell, although on DraftKings they're a little harder to get to. So I'm, spending down a pitcher, which we'll talk about in a minute. Not as stressful as the day today as yesterday. I had a bunch of stuff going on lineup wise, and then still an issue that I'm trying to work out with DraftKings.
Yeah, why? You know what? Why don't you tell everybody about that? Because you just told me something really quickly.
I mentioned it in Discord with some people, but basically I did a 3v3 swap because so I had my lineup. I had just two Philly. I just had McCutchen and Galvis who had played so far, and in that lineup I had a Yankees stack. But I'd switched around my pitching to get a little bit off the board, and I had played, and obviously McCutchen was basically unowned and was like the nuts. But I decided to do a 3v3 swap instead of taking out my 5-man Yankee stack by taking Urshela out, putting Machado in, and then switching Woodruff and Blake Snell for Taillon and Walker Buehler, and it didn't work. It wasn't working all night for DraftKings. I tried to make a million late swaps, which I couldn't do. Basically, we had that time break so we could sort of see how we were doing. And all my Toronto stacks, I had to get weird with it and try and play some craziness to try and make it work. But this was one lineup that I actually liked, but I wanted to get Machado and a 4-man Yankee stack rather than the 5-man Yankee stack with Urshela. And all I had to do was go down to Woodruff, and I could still use Taillon, but I wanted to use Snell because I thought those were the better options. Obviously, it wasn't afraid of eating the chalk as much because most people had failed on most of the chalk that had hit already. And the two guys I had used had put up a combined, I think 38 or 40 and were cheap. So I had the option to do that, and it wasn't letting me do it. And I sent the video, and I'm working it out with DraftKings. Long story short, the lineup would have finished 5th in the big one for, it wasn't like for the biggest score ever, which was kind of crazy pay structure, but that's because that's how those tournaments work. But it was 40,000. And it's frustrating, but at the same time, like you could say, it's not like I didn't get it in time or anything like that. And I was able to make other swaps, then it continually didn't work. I was back and forth with their support for about 2 hours trying to figure out what to do because I couldn't get it on my phone either. So obviously it wasn't a console thing. I wasn't able to edit any of my lineups after lock for the first hour and a half. Wow. And then it was really frustrating. And then there's no resolving it. No matter what, they're not going to give me the 40K that would have been there. Even though I do have it on video. So that's
but who are they going to take it from? I mean,
yeah, exactly. I mean, what are they going to do? So, I mean, I think realistically they should, like and I've gone through this with them before, because if you can't swap, you have to at least refund those entries. Like, I just don't think it's fair to the players when you don't. They've been really good to me in the past. It makes me feel a little less certain that they will be doing it this time, but it would be nice. And it's also tilting because it was a frustrating night, but
again, this is not something they usually like to do, Bobby, for obvious reasons. But if something like that comes up, just reach out to me. I bet you it was just on your end. I could have probably gone into one of my computers and done it for you, and then we could.
But then I run the risk of them actually canceling my account.
No, you wouldn't. If you were on top of it and say, hey, just so you know, I couldn't update my entries. My friend Eric just logged in from. You know what I mean? There were ways you could have done it. But you were thinking about it.
It's not legal for that to happen, but I could have had that conversation with them, but they were still telling me to try and make the things work. And there wasn't a whole, we're talking about a whole, there was hours it was going on for, but there was only a few minutes when I had this time. Gotcha. You know what I mean? But
do you have a DK, like a dedicated person that like deals with issues for you like this? Yes. You do? Okay.
Yes. And a FanDuel too.
Okay.
but anyway, yeah. So we're trying to work it out. It's frustrating, and it was tilting because I went really heavy last night, and obviously everybody felt like their lineup sucked. Even the winning lineups weren't all that impressive because it was just one of those weird nights. It's one of those nights where if you weren't stacking in that big one.
Meanwhile, it must be nice to be him, by the way.
What? Oh yeah.
Well, you realize he also won the $1 million in football last year.
Yeah, well, the max entry guy. So that's I have a little, like the guy who finished second, who just entered twice and stuff like that. I feel more for, those guys, they also have those losing days where they're putting up a couple 100,000 that day. I mean, he might have had however much on cash games yesterday too. Like, so he probably won $1 million anyway. But yeah, I hear you. I mean, I understand. It is nice. It's got to be a good feeling. But anyway, I'll get to tonight's slate. That was just a quick rundown.
Yeah, let's do it. So WW Fresh is coming right on in with a question that kind of goes counter to something you kind of led with. So he's asking Scherzer, Cole, for you guys double pay up, and you're kind of intimating that you're going to do something different.
I'm for once don't have Scherzer as like my number one guy. I think there's a little too much disrespect on this Atlanta team for this Atlanta offense. And Buehler even didn't pitch poorly yesterday. They're just a tough offense to get through. So I actually have a little bit of a different set of guys, but I do like Cole as a stand-up, but then you get the only extreme hitters umpiring Cole's game. I don't think it matters all that much. I like Cole against the Angels. I think he's the premium pitcher. I really like Rodon. This Pittsburgh lineup is just really weak, and I think Rodon will be a little bit lower owned than Scherzer and Sale. I'm playing the 1650 on FanDuel, and as of right now, Rodon is my starting pitcher. Now he'll probably be a little bit more in relation to being popular over there because he's a more significant discount, whereas he's more expensive on DraftKings than Cole. But I actually kind of prefer if you're going to spend up the Cole Rodon pairing. I think we're going to see a Sale vintage game. He almost was doing it last time, but then he ended up getting hit at the end. I'm not going to play Sale much today at all. I do have Scherzer probably about half the field, about 20%, and I don't have him at all on FanDuel. Again, he could easily blow it out of the water. And this is not like I'm not saying he's a bad play. I just think that there are other options. And then the guy I really like that I have the most ownership on DraftKings is Kevin Gausman. Partially because I think he's getting, again, probably half the ownership of Scherzer and Sale. He allows me to do what I want with my bats. He's had some tough matchups and this matchup's a little bit softer for him. He's really, really good at home in general. I think there's a ceiling there where he could easily outperform these guys. So for all those reasons, Gausman, Caprillion, similar type of thing, the matchup with Detroit, although he's really struggled, so I prefer Gausman, but I do have them paired together. And then I'm doing the weird thing and playing Joe Ryan. It's not that weird, though, because everybody's going to do it. That's the only thing I don't like about it. But I am playing some Joe Ryan at 5K. So, yes, I do think double spending up is an option. There are cheap places to go, like Minnesota being one of them. But I think that's going to end up with a lot of similar builds in those Minnesota stacks. So like, for example, I have Buxton all over the place. Obviously, how I feel about Buxton, and I'm just going to let, variance do its thing. He's still way too cheap, but I like some lineups. I have like 3 and 4 man stacks without Buxton in my Minnesota stacks. Playing Ref Schneider and Jeffers and Donaldson and Polanco. I think Sano is in play as well. So I think you're just going to run into similar builds if you start paying up and do that specific thing, which is what I'm sort of hearing people are doing. And I don't think it's a bad way to go. It's just not what I'm going to do to be on the chalk on DraftKings. I don't need to worry in my 1650 on FanDuel so much about being on the chalk, so I am going to play more. I have Oakland as the number 1 rated offense for me today in terms of the team I think would score most likely to score the most runs. But I think that the Yankees' power is hard to ignore, and it kind of scares me not having more of them. And I think it also I love the White Sox. I think they're hard to get to on DraftKings, so I made a priority effort to get to them on DraftKings. I think people will just say, I'll play Grandal on FanDuel at 2,800. So I made a priority to try and get them over there. And look, Gavin Sheets is back in the lineup. We got to play a little bit of Gavin. So I'm doing a little bit of that. And the Toronto situation, so this is I may be personally biased because I've watched too much of Toronto lately. I think this is a great spot to pick out a couple bats and try and get some home runs out of those bats. Guerrero, obviously, being number 1 always. Springer is absolutely not right. Doesn't mean he can hit 2 home runs off Matt Harvey here, but he can barely move. Like, he is banged up. He is there. They rushed him back. He's not going to steal bases. He stole a base the other night on a double steal, and it said he wasn't going to go, and the manager told him he wasn't allowed to go. And afterwards, he said, we just appreciate that he hustles like that. And he said it was a mistake and it won't happen again. But they don't want him stealing bases, which is another added discount from his chalkiness and ownership. I'm sort of siding with Guerrero, Bichette. Dickerson is the obvious value play, who I think it does make sense to get in, even though he's batting seventh. I think Kirk, Gurriel, all these guys are fine. I just am picking 2 or 3 of them most. I only have one full Toronto stack in all my lineups on both sides. So that's the way I'm approaching this slate.
Yeah.
That was
I wish I could be I wish I could say the same. I'm a little
Hey,
chalky.
they're likely to go off. Maybe they go completely off tonight. We've just seen the story so many times, and there is some fear, which was just brought up about Brooklyn Juice about the pitch management. He really struggled in the last game against Toronto that he pitched, and even though I've said all this, Rodon. But the start before that, you look at him, he had 11 strikeouts, and we could say, yeah, he only threw 89 pitches, and they are sort of they will sort of be careful with their pitchers in Chicago. I still think there's a good enough chance here for him to mow through this lineup quickly. And I don't think that there's an actual pitch count or anything like that on it. I really don't.
No. What I was going to say is that the bill that you described that you think is going to be really like people are going to be doing a lot of like the shirt, paying up for pitching and then getting twins and whatever. I think that's what I'm looking at right now.
Well, people are doing it because it makes a lot of sense.
And then I all but my and then again, this should come as this is not earth shattering either. But the last team that you mentioned, I have a lot of Yankees also. So maybe I am a little bit too chalky with this approach, but that's where I am right now. The guy I was going to ask you about, you already touched on a little bit, was the Joe Ryan, but even him is whatever. With me pitching, I'm just totally just like Moto here. I have on DraftKings. I mean, honestly, just going to be transparent right now. I have 100% Cole and then 50% Rodon and 50% Scherzer. I mean, like I had the Cole Rodon or Cole Scherzer, like basically across the board, which and just so you guys know, what you end up having to do when you play like that is you put a lot of pressure on yourself to get everything else perfect, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna poke around and see if I can't find something different. And I have Cole on FanDuel too.
Yeah. So that's what I've got. Cole and Rodon are the guys I'm using on FanDuel. Again, I think Cole probably makes it into my last build in the 1650, but I think that Rodon will be in my 555. Then it's just going to be. I'm just deciding which way I want to go with each of them because I do see the fear for Rodon, whereas Cole always has a leash. But I think that I think if you talk about like the situation, they're both in great spots. But Rodon against this Pittsburgh lineup they're rolling out is it dreadful.
By the way, pretty sneaky. By the way, of I don't want to say sneaky, but Angels Yankees. Games at LA are like early games because they're late. You know what I mean? Like they're playing them in the late afternoon there. Yeah. But they make it into like the primetime slate on the East Coast. That's like a little. I'm used to like the West Coast games being like the late night hammers, and now like the first game.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. You know what? Because then Upton and Adele go back-to-back home runs, and then I can close my laptop.
And then Cole strikes out the next 9
games. Then he gets 40 fantasy points anyway. Yeah, we've seen that too.
We've seen that story.
All you need is someone get a home run first inning. All that does is get Cole mad.
Right. Exactly. I totally agree. It does scare me not to have more of Toronto because this is a spot I would attack like crazy. I just think between the ownership and, I mean, man, are they struggling. Like, I know it'll snap out of it at some point, but it's been a month that we've been talking about this, and they really haven't. Them and San Diego have been the 2 teams like that. So it's a spot where at chalk on a slate where I really like some other offenses, maybe I can get away from. That's the way.
Yeah, as just as I did yesterday, I have 0.
Okay,
and then we'll just see what happens.
Yeah, there's some. I'm sort of confused at why, like the just a sort of maybe not off the board exactly, but why KC and Cleveland aren't being targeted at all.
Yeah, Kansas City. I have them as my second ranked stack value wise, and usually when that happens, they just become popular. You know what I mean?
Right.
And they're just not getting there. It's not happening today. who is it? Logan Allen they're up against.
Yeah.
I mean, I basically 4-man stacked them in the 2,500 yesterday against a much better pitcher. I don't know why people don't want to do it today.
Right.
And dude, I tell you, I thought I was off to the race. The very first batter of the day was freaking Merrifield, and he freaking lit one right into left field for a base hit. I'm like, here we go, gonna steal a base and this, that, and the other thing. And then on 3-1, they freaking just someone hit to literally the worst. It was like a fielder's choice or something. Just knocked him out at second base. It was a horror show.
Yeah.
And then the pitcher gave up, like 20 straight, whatever. What about Snell last night? That was pretty sick.
Yeah, he was having quite a game. They couldn't touch him.
And you talked. I overheard a little bit of talk in the Discord. People are really steamed about Giolito.
Nothing you can do. You can't predict an injury. You can't.
Yeah, but, between you, me, and the wall, he was pretty bad anyway.
Well, he gave up one. He was on pace to get about. I mean, what would he had 25 fantasy points with the win if they got the win?
No, I get it, but I bet his command was bad. I mean, it was not his night.
He was messing around too much in counts and stuff like that. He definitely didn't look like himself. That's for sure.
I think so.
But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. You know what I mean? There were other options.
What ended up being wrong with him? Did they give an update?
It's his leg.
Okay.
Something with his leg, but again, they will be careful with their pitchers in Chicago right now. So that is something to definitely take into account.
I'll tell you this: there's a lot of pitching. I mean, like I'm getting zero. I mean, I'm getting zero. Like all these guys that are like Gausman, Sale. I mean, what kind of person am I? I get zero of Sale. I don't know.
I get it. It's a tough matchup, and
is it
Tampa Bay?
I mean, they strike out a lot, don't they?
They have more against righties, but yeah, I mean, you can argue they have better left-handed hitters, so they actually do strike out okay against them. But I mean, sure, you could play Chris Sale. I just think you want to talk about pitch count concerns. That's a real pitch. That's a guy who's actually coming back from a serious injury. They do kind of need to win some games, but they will not risk their franchise pitcher on him like that. Whereas Rodon is sort of on the later end of his career. Said he's not quite, Chris Sale. And Chris Sale was unhittable in his last game until the 6th inning, and he threw 80 pitches. He hasn't thrown more. He threw 89 in the first game back. Right. I think there's a chance for him. Don't get me wrong. I just kind of prefer the guys around him. It's just I like Cole a lot, and I like going down. I think that there's every bit as good a chance for a guy like Gausman to outscore him. I think Gausman outscores him a good portion of the time here. Most of the time, I would say, actually. That's just my personal take.
Yeah.
So I'm into Gausman a lot tonight, in case you can't tell. I also think like there's some other cheaper guys who I've been playing a lot of, like Akil Baddoo. I like a lot tonight. Austin Hayes. Who else do we have here? Oh, Michael Taylor, obviously part of the KC thing, but you don't need him in a stack. You can just play Michael Taylor. Feel good about it. He's 2,700 against a lefty. Sign me up. And I would just say be careful if you're going to play. I like San Francisco initially, but they just so many platoon options for a pitcher that probably won't last all that long that they're playing in a 58-degree temperature game. So I wouldn't get heavy on the Austin Slater and the Darren Ruff, which I would initially, assuming that they're even in the lineup, which I initially was going to be all over. Bradley. I do really like Bradley Zimmer also on both sides. That's another, as a one-off, as a stack, however you want to look at it. I like him a lot. I can't quite get my full stack in. I mean, this is a funny thing I'm running into on in this 1650 is that can I get away with a 3-2-2 X? And I think I can, but I don't know if I want to. So I'm just trying to figure out how to make it work. Man, I'm close to getting what I want here, but not quite there. Let's see if there's any other questions in here. Yeah, we said Logan Allen. Yeah, I think Cleveland is a good team to get there. Nobody talks about the Dodgers. That's fine and fair. I think there was a stat. I don't know if it was this year or last. It must have been last year because I actually haven't tracked all of Max Fried's games. But I don't know if I've ever seen him give up like more. Like I think he's given up 4 runs like once, like in his life.
Really?
I mean, he just never gives up runs, and he never gives up home runs. He's given up 4 home runs his last 10 games. He did have one game where he gave up I see a 4 earned run game on his path. It's hard I love the Dodgers in general, as you guys know. I don't think they can't get to him. They can get to anybody, but it's certainly not a spot where I think that you want to try and target Max Fried. He's probably one of the last. I actually would recommend targeting Sale, Cole, potentially even Scherzer ahead of Fried, just because of how limited damage he gives up, where these other guys give up a ton of home runs and he just doesn't. So that's the way I would go about that. But if I was building a bunch of lineups, I would get a Dodger stack, and I'm just not building enough to even consider it.
Let's see what this Cleveland. You said you like Cleveland a little bit, huh?
Yeah, I just think that they make some sense.
Yeah.
From a number of different perspectives, I think they make a lot of sense, actually. Let's see. We've got Chapman. Sorry, I'm trying to edit my lines. I'll stay here the whole time, but I just am going to have to zone out for a minute at a couple points. Man, I really can't.
Did you talk about Oakland at all?
Yeah, I always said Oakland's my favorite stack.
Okay.
That's what I'm rolling with. Oh, 1, 3, 5.
Joe Ryan.
Man, the build on FanDuel is just driving me mad over here, trying to get this exactly the way I want it. It's pretty tricky.
Let's see something.
Does anybody actually like an outfielder from on FanDuel less than 2,300 or less? I guess I can't even do Kemp because I already got my stack together and I'm not including him. So,
does anybody like an outfielder from FanDuel 2,300 or less? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
No. Like the two cheapest guys I like Goodwin at 2,400.
Yep.
And Slater at 2,400.
Yep. It's a great stolen base matchup for Oakland on top of everything else, which you're kind of hoping doesn't come into play, I guess. But maybe that's the route I can go. There we go. That'll get me to what I want to do without having to sacrifice everything. I think it's just playing Kemp over Lowry in a part of my stack. And I wish he was batting at the top of the lineup like I thought he would be tonight. But he can still steal a base from the bottom of the order. The problem is if you're betting on the stack, how many chances will he have to steal a base, you know?
Right.
So that's sort of what I'm running into, a little bit of a gameplay issue. And obviously we know Tony Kemp is not exactly Mr. Power. Neither is Josh Harrison, and neither is Jed Lowry for that matter, but he actually does have at least a little bit of power. And I love Marte. I think Marte is like the best play on the board on FanDuel. On DraftKings, it's a little bit different.
Who's pitching for Detroit?
Peralta.
Yeah.
They're going to run. I mean, in longer shot tournaments, I even don't mind Andrews down at the bottom of the lineup. These guys are going to take off if they get on base.
Yeah. Let me see. I
could skip Harrison at the top of the order, which feels just silly, but
Gallows.
he's also the better real hitter. Ugh. Give me a build I like here, buddy. Jeez. Nothing. Cannot quite find it.
Posey. Roof. Maybe it is time for Buxton to finally put one up there.
Yeah. By the way, did anybody notice that I don't think that Med Rosario was on the winning lineup? He had like 7,000 points last night. He was 5 for 5 with 2 home runs and 5 RBIs last night.
Maybe you saw who was on the winning lineup, as you predicted.
Brett Gardner?
Walker Buehler.
Oh, Walker Buehler. I know that's really weird. Especially because he was so not like there were so many other routes. It was so not like the best possible.
He's always just in the winning lineup. He's never the top scorer, and he's always in the optimal.
I know, it's crazy. Really wild. 7, 23. All right, Cheats. I'll try you one more. Favorite outfielder 2,700 or below. Would you stay all the way down?
What site?
On DraftKings, on FanDuel, would you say Michael Taylor, or would you say would you go down to the 2,400 guys? I like Dickerson also, but I've already got him in my lineup.
You need an outfielder on FanDuel. Okay, that's hopefully less than 2,700.
Yep.
Besides the ones I mentioned, besides Goodwin and Slater. The guys you mentioned, Taylor and Zimmer.
I think Taylor would be my guy a little bit over Zimmer. Yeah. It feels weird to play a big 1650 today and not have more Toronto exposure. I'll just say that, like, have Dickerson as my only Toronto exposure against Matt Harvey. It doesn't feel right.
That does feel kind of filthy, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's okay because you know what? If you fade Toronto, and, oh man, then Harvey just survives 5 innings. Then here comes the bullpen.
I know, seriously. That's what I mean. Look, they scored 2 runs yesterday, and they not only that,
they scored 2 runs. But in fairness, you know, like I was anti-sweating Toronto, so Guerrero hit a home run. Like he could have had 4 home runs.
Yeah, I know. Those balls were all at the wall. And then Semien hit 2 at the wall. But Danny Jansen hits a home run and gets a walk, and then they pinch hit for him in the 5th.
Dude, I thought that you were gonna be doing it, man. I really did.
Well, which one?
When he hit that home run.
Yeah, I was like, okay, here we go. Let's roll. Danny,
We pulled up. After everything started, what I was doing, I was starting to pull up everybody's lineups to see who had something from Washington, who had something from Philly, who had something from Toronto. You know, I saw that you had and I highlighted your lineup and said, well, this is the perfect freaking Bobby lineup. This has Toronto people, but this just doesn't have the chalk. It's got Danny Jansen and Kevon Smith, and that's just the way you do it, man. And within like 5 seconds of me saying that, Danny Jansen home run, I think.
Yep. I actually played him on FanDuel too, so I was kind of tilted a little bit when they drew. By the way,
you can't do any better. I mean, you said like straight up, dude. I hope everybody's playing Danny Jansen. That's exactly what you said.
I did say it. It's true. I definitely was on it. I just I didn't think they were going to pinch hit for him so early in the game.
Dude, you have to pinch hit for people that hit home runs. I mean, don't you know that?
That's the rule these days, apparently. That's what I'm telling you. Even like the Giants will do stuff like that a lot, and I just go, oh my god! Like they'll do it early in games too. A guy will hit a home run in his first or second at bat, and then his third at bat, 5th, 6th inning, and he's out of the game. And they'll do it in Tampa Bay as well, with Luplow and stuff like that. Although I do sort of like Luplow tonight. He's the only 2,100 guy who I'm thinking about getting in. I like his power against Sale, so considering that. Boy, this Toronto thing is really starting to eat at me. Because I can easily get to what I want. I have to go Marte down to Canna, which just feels so stupid.
Dude, what the hell are we doing? Why are we not just playing Toronto?
I mean, that's what we say, but look, man, it's been through this so many times with them.
Are they like that pricey?
They're pricey. They're definitely pricey.
Let me see. What do I got? What do I have them? I have them easily the top raw points. And I have them 3rd best value. What the hell? Why am I not playing these guys? Why am I not getting to this stuff? What is going on?
Well, because you're paying up a pitcher.
You know what?
So Dickerson's the only one you can play.
Unfortunate truth. So hold on. Let me see what I can do about that. So let me take one of my bigger ones. That would be. Let's do that. Let's start. Well, I can show people if I don't finish it, right? So okay, yeah. So let's start with the Toronto guys. Okay, so but we'll be greedy. We'll just do the what I have listed as value. So let me just put in what I have, and then we'll go backwards. So we're gonna put in Springer. We're gonna put in Hernandez. We're gonna put in Dickerson. We're going to put in Guerrero, and then we're going to put in Semien. Semien, fortunately, is only at second base. All right. So now let's presume that I have to play Ryan. I'm just guessing.
You don't have to. You could do the 85, 8,700 thing.
Okay.
With Caprillion and I like that too. Caprillion and my man Gausman.
Dude, I could totally play Toronto if I play Cole and Ryan.
Cole and Ryan. Yeah. Oh yeah.
I got 3,500 left per person.
After your thing? Yeah, perfect. Perfect. It's gonna be. I mean, that's gonna be what people do too. You gotta realize that.
People are gonna do that.
Yeah. I mean, Ryan and I projected at around 30%. Like.
All right, so you can't play the two studs. You got to play Cole, and if you want to play one of the studs, you got to pay down somewhat. So if I was not going to play Ryan, I want to get a little greedier. Who's the next guy? You said Caprillion? I got can I get no Gausman's gonna be too expensive too, right? Matt's no good. What do you think of Jackson Kovar? You didn't think about him at all?
I didn't think about him.
Okay. Let's say, well, can you? How bad is it if I played Gausman? That's 2,300 a person left. Okay, you can't do that. Yeah, so like you said, if you did this, and this is what people are going to do also, right? They're going to play Ryan.
But it's not like, you know, Chicago. Yeah, I think so.
And if I did that, then you could just go ahead and do. You play Astudillo for openers. First base, play Cent. Oh, yeah, all kinds of shit you could do. Wait, so who's a catcher? Let me see.
Kirk or Grandal is probably your main guys.
Yeah, I don't want to do Kirk because I have all Toronto's stacked already. Oh,
I like the stack.
What's that?
Oh, okay. No, I like Kirk.
Play Jeffers.
Matt Duffy was scratched. I'm not sure what that's going to do to the Chicago lineup. Ooh, that could actually open something up for me.
What does that get you?
If somehow their lineup shook out where they get Hermosillo in, there's my 2,100 guy on FanDuel. I mean, they let him off last time and he hit a home run. I don't know why they don't play him anymore since then. Not that he's hit much in general, but I guess the second to last game that he played that he was on that lineup of mine that should have won the 100K.
Played Lopez. Yeah, Nicky Lopez is not really a one-off type of guy for me. Who else is shortstop nowadays?
Rosario. I think you're spending up at shortstop. Only Garcia is the only other guy in my stacks, but in general,
that was the other one I was going to do was Garcia. And there's Jeffers and Donaldson. Donaldson's a little more expensive than he was, but he's still good enough at 4K, no?
Yeah. Yeah, I think he is.
Who's better? I guess there's nobody better catcher for 3,300, right?
So I just swapped out my former. So I'm going basically all Oakland on FanDuel now. With like 2 mans of the White Sox, 2 mans of Toronto. Let's see if there's any other questions in here, guys.
Well, so here's the other thing I could obviously do is I could
20 points from Freddie Peralta out of the question. From Peralta out of the question. I'm confused. Did I miss something?
So here's it. So this is an interesting theory question.
Oh,
right?
Willie Peralta. Yeah, 20 points out of Willie Peralta would. I mean, that would be a complete bizarre anomaly.
So I think this is an actually interesting theory question that I can pose, right? And this is I have this not discussion, but I fight Sabersom on this a lot. So you have a lineup like this, and I'm not necessarily going to put this in, right? So you have a lineup like this that's got 5 Torontos, a couple of Minnesotas, whatever it is. You have one off of the White Sox, and I'm sitting like a 400 left over, and it all looks really pretty. And then I realized that I can just go play Buxton instead of, for example, Dickerson.
Mm-hmm.
And all that does, well, in this case, it actually is not the greatest example because it still correlates, right? But let's just say that Buxton was a one-off. What I'd be doing is replace it. I'd having a better player, but I'd be giving up some stack equity, right?
Mm-hmm. Let me see your lineup here because I'm looking at mine right now, so I actually can't read it though. It's kind of hard to see. I don't know. I would probably take just delete a name or something, just so we cannot get in trouble again.
I'm not putting anything in. What's the difference?
Oh, okay. But what was I can't see you can't read the name.
It's not a big deal. But like, for example, let's just say that it's kind of a bad example. Don't worry about it. So here's the point: is you could play Toronto if you want.
Yeah, you definitely can. No question about it. But if you want. Being the operative phrasing.
Yeah, I'm definitely not playing that lineup. Or am I? See, nobody knows. I kind of want to consider getting to some San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have their lineup out yet.
I just think that the only thing it's cold. Oh, and they've got 2 of the bats you'd want possibly are guys who are likely to be out of the game by the 5th inning or 6th inning, whenever Anderson comes out.
Okay.
That's the only thing I would just cautionary tale. One thing I'm doing a little bit of, I do have in my Toronto stack, I'm using Olsen, and in my Oakland stack on DraftKings, I'm using Guerrero just to get a little weird.
Let me see something. Yeah, just so you guys know, and anybody played the early slate, Yu Darvish with a -3 fantasy points is definitely gonna win.
You think it's gonna win still? I don't think so. The other guys went off. Logan Gilbert and Odorizzi.
No, I'm looking. I'm just. I mean, there's very few innings left.
Oh! You're saying an
actual. Oh yeah. No. There are some guys left. So some Gilbert Weaver combinations.
Yeah.
Have a bunch of innings left.
Yeah, you guys can go ahead and stack the Dodgers. You can against the pitcher who literally never gives up anything.
Oh, this is why these Gilberts were low owned. I didn't realize that Freeland was 50%. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was crazy to me. I stacked those. I stacked Texas and Colorado.
I played this slate. I had literally. I didn't have a share of Freeland.
Yeah, I didn't think about. But I mean, I didn't know he was gonna get hurt like either. So I can't take too much credit on that one, unfortunately. As much as I want to. I really like this build that I got to with this Gausman and Caprillion. The problem is I don't know that I want. I mean, look, there's an argument to be made for Max Fried on this slate.
There always is, isn't there?
There always is, and the Dodgers have seen him this week. We got him in the playoffs last year, but he's good. He's the kind of pitcher who gives the Dodgers trouble, and he's got like. I wouldn't do it, but I'm just saying I don't think the Dodgers are a stack that, unless you're talking about a huge field tournament, then you can go ahead and do it. I don't think there's any reason to really try and go to it on another stack. It's just playing look, they haven't hit anybody hard enough to pay off, and every pitcher they've had faced has been not as tough as Fried. Fried just doesn't give up power.
I just got to run for a minute. I'll be back though.
Okay. Guys, pop in any other questions or any other thoughts. Cole or Max on FanDuel? It's Cole for me. I don't mind if you want to take shots with Max, but I feel like it's Cole, and I still like Rodon too, by the way. But I am not playing. I'm playing Cole and Rodon as my main pitchers on FanDuel. Let's see, any other one? Good luck to you, K9 Bronco. Hope you take one down tonight, buddy. Way too many people getting on to a guy. Brooklyn Juice, I agree with that in general. It sort of naturally builds itself, which is why people are doing it, obviously. But I kind of agree with you that Joe Ryan, I still think Joe Ryan's a better play than – I think Willie Peralta is the worst play on the slate. And I think Matt Harvey would be just behind him. Those are the two worst guys on the slate, in my opinion. But I would tend to agree with that sentiment, sort of. Let's see real quick. I want to see this new Cubs lineup, by the way. Do we have a new Cubs lineup out? Let's see. It should be new Cubs, Ortega, Schwindel, Happ, Wisdom, Hayward. No, it didn't really do enough for me to get what I wanted to do. Wow, this Cubs lineup is awful. But they've been awful and they somehow still scored like 10 runs a bunch of times lately, or 7+ runs. I'm trying to make one last pivot over here. Get to Robert. And I have to get one more pivot over here. And we should be pretty much good to go in a minute. It's pretty easy to pay up if you want to. Do I like Hayes? I have Hayes in full transparency. Hayes is in my big buy-in on DraftKings. I don't think that he's like this incredible play, but I think he does grade out just a little bit better than the guys beneath him. I mean, the guy's hit 14 home runs this year, and he's platooned some of the year. He's got power. Matz is a lower strikeout lefty. I could see getting to a couple Oriole bats, but overall, I wouldn't make it a priority. I would probably pick Mountcastle. Mountcastle Mancini is always just a toss-up, but I think it's probably Mountcastle against the lefty for me. Mancini's career damage has mostly been done against righties, although he's had some good luck this year. The other way. Still liking Leplo. I do like Leplo as a one-off. I really do. I think it's look, you might only get 2 at-bats out of him. It's a high-risk play, so I don't expect anything from it. But there is a power upside versus an unowned guy versus Sale that is kind of interesting. So I don't mind that when everyone's spending it down elsewhere, because all the spend downs are going to be, you're going to see a lot of Refschneider, Taylor, Zimmer. That's what's going to happen. Basically, no question about it, I think. In fact, making a twin stack without and using Taylor instead of Refschneider is kind of an interesting route if you want to try something a little creative. And I'm telling you, I'll call it. You guys, I like that. I like Gavin Sheets tonight. I think he might poke one. Boy, Cole Tucker got called up to the major leagues after not being able to hit a thing in the minor leagues. How does that happen? How did that work? I have so few Sale lineups. Watch Sale go off in one of those win, and people are like, what? You didn't want Sale as much? I'll be like, look, I just played him a couple places. But I always feel bad about that one. I was actually talking to some of the RG people, and they want to start. I'm going to start showing my RotoGrind, some of my ownerships and stuff in LUHQ earlier in the day.
Yeah, they don't mind.
Yeah, they're. I really like it, and I use it, so I want to. They've been good to me, so I want to be good back to them, and also I think it's valuable. Yeah. All right, Sheets. Any final thoughts you got on this?
I'm good.
Making lineups. I am too, guys. So if you think it's kind of a dead air show, it's only because we're done, but we're still here.
No, that's cool. Again, like yesterday, I had fun just going over stuff after everything stop everything locked. We're just talking about other crap. So if you guys have, but today I just can't hang around for that.
Yeah.
And that's about all I got. So
pretty exciting
so
yesterday,
tomorrow. Wait. So I'll talk. I guess I'll talk to you offline. But tomorrow I have.
I'll take a look at your schedule. I've got it up here.
No, yeah, I got to change something. Yeah, okay, all right, sounds good.
All right, buddy. Well, good luck to everybody out there, and I'll be in Discord if you have any questions or thoughts.
Okay.
Good luck, all.